Hey, I'm Debbie Urbanski, and I'm going to be reading tonight from my first novel, Afterworld. Here it is. It was published by Simon and Schuster in December, and I just wanted to say thanks first for to the Alaska Quarterly Review for hosting this and inviting me to read, and also for existing and supporting me for the last several decades of my writing career. I know they've done that for many writers, and they're a really important part of my journey as a writer and just the literary landscape. So thank you to them and to Ron. So my novel is narrated by an AI story worker who has to tell the story of the last human on Earth. The novel takes place after humans have gone extinct to save the planet. And the characters, I'm going to read from chapter 2. And the characters you'll encounter, Sen is the young woman who ends up being the last human on the planet. There's going to be Emily, which is another AI. She comes in and interrupts occasionally to give feedback to the story worker. I'll try not to explain too much, but there's a virus called S, which is a sterilization virus that causes the human extinction. And occasionally, the narrator, the story worker, likes to cite other sources to reference things. They're still learning how, I guess, to be an author. So, all right, so I will begin. Once Sen had 3 mothers. Her first mother, Iris, no one talked about, and Sen does not recall her except for a dim memory of a woman hiding behind a curtain, whom she always assumed had been a visiting aunt or a sitter, only her red shoes visible. When S was released, Iris was living on the other side of the country in California. Not a nice place to live, but the houses in the flood zones were cheap, so Iris could afford one. The virus infected Iris and infected everyone, and she biked out to a bridge, not the Golden Gate. That bridge was overrun with crowds of the like-minded, but the Oakland one. And there she became one of the first wave leapers. Below on shore at the edge of land, people were still paying attention, many of them snapping photos or recording videos, mistakenly thinking at the time what a rare event, to watch so many people choosing to leave this world. Numerous individuals videoed Iris's fall, but it was an older man, account name Mo World, who first posted his footage onto the then functional Human Network. Pairing the visuals, a 50-year-old Iris diving headfirst off the bridge in a sundress that flew up around her as she fell, exposing her yellow underwear, with sentimental music that matched the emotionality of the time. 14,631,248 people viewed Iris's death within the first day. Sen wasn't one of them. Iris will not be mentioned again. Sen's second mother, Lindsay, hanged herself in their backyard in the city of Syracuse using a simple noose made from Sen's childhood rope swing, after which she became a ghost, though not a very available one. She became more a sense of a ghost, a suggestion of being haunted or watched. Sen's final mother, Dana, might be, for all Sen knew, up in the universe, drifting away from her. Or the ship Mama Dana could be on may have exploded, and pieces of her and of the ship have fallen all over the earth, which is supposed to be growing wilder and more magnificent each day, despite the occasional flaming debris raining from the sky. Sen doesn't know where her mother is. Each death or disappearance of a loved one is a sort of progress, Sen has been taught in her witnessing orientation. The one class she attended anyway. A score one for the team. Should this be true, then Sen's life is progressing along nicely. Sen wakes in the cabin after the sun rises over the tree canopy, and the electromagnetic radiation, having traveled 91,776,525 miles, through the solar system, enters the single window in the loft. It is not a gentle light. Her body is wrapped in the cabin's two remaining blankets, the blanket that had been her mother's and her own. While lying on the mattress that smells of sweat, not all hers, Sen disconnects her solar charger from the screen, pulls on her hood, and plays game number U7 in reverse, whose functionality and dual playing modes were briefly explored in Chapter 1. In run 327, Sen comes back to life, and her mothers come back to life. In run 328, she and her mothers come back to life. In run 329, she and her mothers come back to life again, and on and on and on, until eventually, having reached the limit of allowable sequential runs, in reverse ejects her from the game. Sen removes the hood. The mornings have felt cold lately and bare. The trees, depending on the species, are changing, or have changed, or are about to change, or aren't changing. The bucket beside the mattress either contains urine, hers, or else it's empty. Those are the only possibilities. Either she carries the gray bucket outside and dumps her liquid waste material onto the forest floor, or she leaves the empty bucket beside the bed, or she sets the gray bucket on the porch and deals with it later. In all these situations, she keeps both blankets wrapped around her shoulders. There's a hook in the window closest to the sink. This is where she hangs the charger for now. Measure 2 scoops of protein powder into a glass. Savory purple carrot today. Add water from the pitcher on the counter. Stir, drink. It is an awful flavor, having received an average star rating of 0.7 out of 5 from past consumers. Rinse the glass with additional water from the pitcher and leave the clean, wet glass in the sink. There's only one chair remaining in the cabin because Sen, several days prior, had broken, then burned the other chair. It's not uncommon in post-apocalyptic novels for a character to start a fire, a form of comfort to decide what will burn and when. Most fires in the Great Transition are personal, though portions of certain forests have been reduced to charcoal and ash, environmental sabotage by individuals who could not grasp the big picture. Sen sits down in the one remaining chair. She stands up. A postcard of Mount Rushmore dangles from the fridge. The stone heads of the president turn in her direction. Either she imagines this happening or this actually happens. The border between those two states is becoming frayed and delicate. She will need to make a functional fire soon if the temperature continues to drop. On the top shelf of the pantry are 3 boxes of kitchen matches. 2 of the boxes Sen and Dana had brought from the city, the 3rd box they had found in the cabin. Sen opens the boxes and sets each match on the table. 247 matches left. Her ghost mother is there with her, peering over Sen's shoulder as she counts. Sen doesn't really care. Mama Lindsay isn't even a real ghost. She's more of an empty directory or a shell of missing data that needs to be filled. Count the matches again, put the matches away, fold the blankets, shiver. Last night was the first light frost of the fall. The containers of protein powder are in the pantry. Sen counts the containers because she is trying to stay busy. Then she counts the jars of tater flakes. This does not take long. There are not that many containers or jars. Her mother had insisted the pantry stock would be enough when combined with the witnessing resupplies to last Sen for a year, possibly years. Sen cannot imagine lasting a year or years. She can't imagine not lasting either. She has a lack of imagination and also mild anxiety, which used to be treated by cognitive behavioral therapy and pharmaceuticals, neither of which are available to her now. She's not sure she'll make it through the winter. The general public used to enjoy asking the question, what would happen to a person in an apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic situation? They enjoyed asking this question for 284 years. They enjoyed asking because the answers they made up were exciting, violent, escapist, best-selling, and purposeful, with a hopeful twist at the end, a whole subgenre of entertainment. FROYO, a retrospective of the top-selling post-apocalyptic games, movies, comics, poems, plays, amusement parks, songs, and books of the last 200 years, rune porn, S-886 days. So when the Great Transition began out in the real world, people mistook their imaginations for facts and thought they knew what to expect. They expected actual zombies and women sex slaves in chains, leather muzzles and ropes, outfits with straps and buckles, truck races across a desert environment, dust, heroes, action sequences, quality special effects, or they expected something quieter yet emotionally resonant. Paper maps, journeys, blankets, canned goods, a stirring soundtrack, coughing in one's sleep, multiple acts of kindness, loss and connection, undercurrents of hope, a sense of purpose, survival, survivors. However, these specific things did not happen to the majority of people during the Great Transition, or in the end, to anyone at all. S plus 3917 1101 1803. Notice from Emily. Life metric check, all metrics within range, pass, 0.102. Keep up the good work, encouragement. Monitoring will continue. Thank you. Sen pulls on her jacket and heads outside. She hangs the solar charger on a hook screwed into the cabin's outer eaves. Grabbing a large white bucket from the stack of buckets on the porch, she carries the white bucket to the creek and gathers water. Frost coats the leaves of the stinging nettle in the partial shade. Sen used to boil the creek water before Mama Dana left. Not boiling the water has become a type of warning for her. Let me be sick, she scribbles in her journal. Let my mothers protect me from being sick. She doesn't know what she wants, to survive, to not survive. Returning to the cabin, she pours the water from the white bucket into the pitcher beside the sink. She naps, wakes, then selects a tart apple from the collection of wild apples stored in the entryway. The apple she chooses is not yet ripe. She eats it anyway. This will cause her stomach later to ache. Time for her second Proti drink. Measure 2 scoops of Proti powder into the glass, purple carrot flavor again. Add water, stir, drink, gag, swallow, pause. She has to force herself to finish the glass. Once the glass is empty, she fills it with water from the pitcher and gulps as much as she could tolerate. She has ample water. Instead of worrying about the bacteria in the water, she worries about how to fill page after page in her notebook. The day more than halfway over, time for her walk. A consistent routine can be useful in avoiding panic. Department of Transition. Let's talk about taking care of your mental health during the transition, the basics. Pamphlet, S plus 7 days. In the forest, there is buzzing, calling, whirling, gurgling, and screeching. The noises come from the trees themselves, from the inside of the trees. Sen's ghost mother follows her, stirring the pile of leaves in the ditch beside the road. Sen writes nothing down about the leaves. Instead, in her third notebook, she writes, "Everything is changing." That line is an exaggeration, not everything. The gray squirrels continue to carry moss to their nests to insulate the walls for winter. Deeper in the woods, the outer bark of an oak will continue to hang from the trunk in elongated strips, exposing the phloem, which is a living tissue. Sen follows the road back to the cabin. As predicted in the paragraph before last, her stomach aches with generalized abdominal pain. She wraps her arms around her midsection and hunches forward. When the pain subsides, she watches an alpaca in the clearing graze on honeysuckle leaves. She will write none of this down. She will instead sit on the cabin chair while wrapped in blankets and watch the previews that the Department of Transition uploaded 207 days ago onto everybody's screen. The first preview concerns the post-human Earth. Sen skips over the part that features the beginning and middle of the transition, as she has lived through that, is living through it, and starts watching at the point when everyone, including her, is dead and turned to bone, and the bones are gone, and the bridges are gone, and a sky of birds sets upon a cold lake and agitates the water. Moose return to the mudflats, an alligator crawls toward a rock in the sun. Then another alligator, then another, until there are multitudes. Revived populations of bats roost in summer canopies. Bat after bat, tree after tree, an aluminum part peeks out through the creeping understory before it is buried for Sen's screen powers down. She brings the charger inside, hangs it on the hook in the windows, plugs her screen into the charger's port. The postcard on the fridge has flipped over, exposing a woman's scrawling red handwriting. There is still some light outside, though the light is dimming. In the forest, the witch hazel blooms and parasitic wasps hover around the yellow flowers, the noise of the wind on the leaves. Sen reads at a table near the window that overlooks the wild roses and the mound of stones. When they left the city, Dana had allowed them each to bring a classic text in their packs, as classics can be reread dozens or even hundreds of times, each time revealing fresh delights. Plus, paper books could be used as emergency kindling. D. Furukawa, How to Read a Book, Journal of Reading Psychology S-1509 days. They both chose early 21st century novels. For Sen, the alternate history page turner, Station 11. For Dana, House of Leaves, which falls into the genre of architectural horror. Tonight, it's Station 11, which presents post-apocalyptic life as an eventually hopeful celebration of humanity's perseverance and the tenacity of culture and art. A bestseller for 96 years, Station 11 has been praised over the decades for its realism, for its real-feeling characters, and realistic descriptions of a world where most, but not all, of humanity is dead. Tonight, Sen reads out loud the beginning through page 15, which is the tipping point between the before and the after times. She doesn't want to read any further this evening. To reach the happy ending, one must pass through suffering. This is basic knowledge, but one isn't always in the mood for suffering. See Gutierrez, Shadows, Sunshine, Passage, Pain, On Life, S-9950 days. Sen flips to the beginning and reads to page 15 again and again. In the margins of the pages, there are rough sketches of edible roots and leaves, her mother's drawings. Sen skips ahead and rereads the book's ending, in which there is talk of an awakening world, which there means human symphonies, newspapers, and electric lights. The term awakening world has a different meaning in Sen's current situation. Cities transmuting into forests, ecological secession, and the humans gone. Mama Lindsay's ghost taps against the front window of the cabin. Even unarchived data ghosts, such as Lindsay, could still form empty gestures of love and concern. Sen doesn't hear the tapping. When the interior of the cabin turns too dark to read, she drags the blankets, screen, charger, and hood up the ladder and crawls onto her mattress. Her ghost mother follows, lying beside her on the floor, so Sen will not be alone. Sen does not feel her ghost mother beside her, though the ghost mother is still there. Neither of them can fall asleep. But there's nothing else for Sen to do. There will be nothing for her to do for hours but run her hands through her greasy hair as the meadow drips and darkens, and the dark buries its face into her hair. The dark creeps around inside Sen's mouth. She could feel it stretching her mouth open. S plus 3917 11 01 23 41. Notice from Emily. Emotional distress out of range, current measurement appropriate for later chapters only, insert pleasant memory. Revising. Sen used to sit on the porch and stare at the stars. She did this until one night when she felt herself disintegrating into multiple bright pieces. Not literally, but this is how it felt. She felt herself scattering into pieces of light. The brighter light was the color of an animal's eye. The pieces were the shapes of animals, until she couldn't feel anything human in her left. The last live stream Sen can access goes down in June of her final year. The feed had shown a caged ape who played a keyboard in exchange for vouchers, which were supposed to be short-term transitional currency, though it never worked out that way. There used to be rinds of fruit in the corners of the ape's cage. For years, fresh fruit had been difficult, impossible to find. The can must have been located near a wild orchard. Someone must have brought the fruit from the orchard to feed the ape. There must have been someone. This is what Sen tells herself. Above the keyboard mounted to the wall, there used to be a monitor in the cage. A viewer could, after transferring the appropriate number of vouchers, upload an image which would appear on the monitor. The ape would study the image, then play a song of remembrance. He could have been pounding random notes on the keys. Whoever came up with the system framed it otherwise. They framed it as an animal choosing to remember humanity, similar to a prayer candle in a minor basilica's back corner. These kinds of cams became popular during the Great Transition because, while humans were remembering other humans all the time, non-human species were in general, or even specifically, remembering humans hardly at all. M. Camfet, what does it take to make you notice we're leaving? New York Times, S plus 24 days. So it felt special to have such an animal remember a beloved. The second to last time Sen checked this feed, the cage was empty, the cage door open, the keyboard smashed, the wind blowing with increased intensity through the doorway. The last time she checked, the feed had gone to gray like all the other feeds on the increasingly unreliable human net. But before the empty cage and the static, Sen transferred the remainder of her transitional vouchers, useless now, so why not, to the ApeCam's account. She sent over all her vouchers, then uploaded the photograph Dana had brought with her to the cabin. Sen wasn't in the photo, but Mama Lindsay and Mama Dana both were. The ape, still caged at the time, studied the picture on the screen in front of him, Sen's distant mother sitting on a faraway blanket in a far-off field, before carefully choosing his first note. He played the note again. He played it with repetition, allowing vast, protracted pauses to build between notes, pauses no human musician would have attempted for fear of wearing the listener. V. Markopoulos, How to Ruin a Song, Guider, S minus 4,291 days. The pauses made Sen often think mistakenly that the song was over. The ape's hands looked like human hands encased in a realistic costume. Eventually, the animal played other notes, though the repetitions, whenever they happened, continued for a long time. Each note felt like it was a choice. He never played the black keys. The right hand played more rapidly than the left and often fell out of time. Above the ape's keyboard, Sen could see the contours of her mother's. The song kept going. There must have been no one else in the queue or in the world waiting for their turn. That is the last live stream Sen or anyone will ever see. There are thousands of other lasts to go. The last human step, the last human nightmare, the last human word, the last human bruise, the last human scream, the last human blink, the last human tear, the last human swallow, the last human thought, the last human emotion, the last human breath, the last human heartbeat, the last human reflex, and so on, all of them Sens. When Maya launches, there will be just as many firsts. Sen doesn't plan on going to Maya. From the margins of her notebook, 43. I don't want another world. She assumes that whether to proceed to Afterworld is for her a choice. She is wrong about that. And I will stop there. Thank you.